Why would you name a book about a mermaid if it doesn't have mermaids? Hi guys, I'm Irene. You're watching Perpetually Paperback, and today I'm going to be talking about The Mermaid of Jeju by Sumi Han. So I read this one on Scribd, and I grabbed it because I really like Lisa C. I really like historical fiction. I really love Lisa C. She has amazing Asian American literature and just, she does a lot of research. Her stuff is incredible. So I was kind of hoping, and she has a book called The Island of Sea Women that is about the female divers of Jeju. So my whole thought process with this book was that I didn't want to pick something up that was exactly the same or from an author. I wanted to try another author, basically. And I liked the concept of it. So basically we have, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I did not like this book. I think this book had a lot of potential that it didn't meet. And I'm going to explain why. The beginning, it's basically kind of told in two parts. It was, and I heard it via audiobook. So I think part of that was why I didn't care for it. The listening experience wasn't great. There were a lot of parts, especially towards the end, where it jumped around a lot. You don't know who's talking. It's really confusing. And the worst is, like, it's not a confusing book. It follows Junja when she's young. So in the first part, it follows Junja, she's a henyo, which is what they call the female divers. And at this island in particular, all the divers are women. It's considered women's work. And it follows her and her family as she kind of learns how to dive. It was after the Japanese occupation, but it's as the US is beginning to, it basically is the beginning of the Korean War. So you get a lot of those. And she initially is sent to go and complete the trade. So she trades abalone for a pig, and she's basically sent up into the mountain area where she meets Suol. Suol is this boy who's part of the family and they kind of they start to develop a relationship, really. She's sort of 18 and kind of beginning to get to marrying age. That's kind of where we're at. Suol is a great character. Junja is a great character. We meet this officer who's part of the Northern Army, and there's a whole lot of, like, who do we trust, who do we not trust? The grandmother comes in, and basically as Junja gets back to the family, there's a horrible accident, a terrible crisis, and that has to do with both the grandmother and the inspector and how, and Suol ends up being involved in all of that. That whole part of the story is interesting. It is captivating. I could not stop listening to this. I wanted to know what was going to happen to them so badly. I was super invested in them. At one point, there's like a plot to rescue Suol because something happens. Okay, then we get to the middle of the book and all of that goes away. Literally, we get to part 2 and it's none of that. Then we get Junja's husband, who's not Suol, after she has died through some weird circumstances, and we're getting the husband's story as he goes back to Korea, back to Jeju Island specifically to perform like burial ceremonies. This part of the book was much, much less interesting. I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not care about anything. And it sort of started to this is the part where I don't have any problem with spirituality or ghosts or any of those things, but throughout this whole book, there was an element of like, is this magical realism? Are they really seeing the ghosts? Are they haunted? How is it working? There are aspects where they talk about, there are certain interesting aspects of like how it affected Korean culture because like mystic women were sort of cast out, and his best friend's mom is that like I think they call it like a healer. It's a shaman basically, and that's pretty much what this husband needs to try and like rid himself of what seems to be Junja's ghost, but also his parents' ghost, and he's just like plagued by guilt at this point. It was a weird cut. We never got back to any of the initial story. All of it just ends. And the author just kind of thought, so I heard the author's note, and it sounded like this was kind of based out of a dream that took place. It literally felt like that. It felt like a dream that you wrote out that didn't have an ending. Like, it's like, it literally was like, you don't know how your dream ended, so you didn't know how to end the book. Like, I feel like it would have been served so much better had we stuck to the original story, which was great. It felt completely disjointed, especially towards the middle, where it truly just felt like two different pieces of fiction that didn't really match up together. And like I said, towards the end, the listening experience became very convoluted because it was very difficult to find out who is talking, which ghost is who. And honestly, I can't even tell you what the hell happened at the end. I cannot. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I was just wondering if it was me. Also, it really bothers me when you're like, the Mermaid of Jeju, she was in the water for like a minute. The most interesting parts about this book were not really discussed at all.